welcome to my review of The Mummy Returns. Sorry about the Aliens movie review, that's been a bit delayed. I will have that up tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So, The Mummy Returns. Basically, the plot is that Anaxunamon has been reincarnated, and she and this other guy want to raise Imhotep back from the dead, and Imhotep wants to raise the Scorpion King and his army back, and the army of Anubis back, so he can basically manipulate the Scorpion King, taking control over him and the army, and basically building his empire back. Well, sorry, rebuilding his empire. That's pretty much it. And then in terms of the other characters, like the O'Connells, Rick and Evie are married, and they now have a son, Alex, who is a 10-year-old boy in this movie. So yeah, it's quite a few years after the first movie. So yar. And yeah, a lot of stuff happens in this. So, The Mummy Returns. Whoa, boys, this movie is a rocket. This movie is a ride. It really is. I mean, if you thought the first one was good, I genuinely think The Mummy Returns is the one that holds it all together. I think that it's sort of the central kind of core of the trilogy, if you like. It's the one that is sort of the most grounded, the one that is the most sort of real. I say, well, not real, but you know, the one that is the most. It has the most to it, and it has the most substance, and I think that is what really drives it and what really works. In terms of the first movie, it is better than the first movie in terms of, you know, that there's more of a progression in the story. I mean, I guess you could say it is a continuation of the first story, I guess. Although this movie never fails to just get on with the ride, whereas in the first movie there's a bit of a different structure, in the sense that the first movie sort of took its time a bit more to sort of kind of get the characters going, like establishing the characters and who they are. You know, Rick, Evie, Jonathan, you know, all the other guys in there. You know, Oded. This movie is pretty much all out action. It gets on with the ride straight away. It's a ride. It really is. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's very good. It's very good. The plot is really clever, especially in terms of Evie's character, because Evie's character gets a lot more development in this film. She basically, what happens, you know, she has premonitions and visions of her in another life, like in a previous life, and you know, when during the old Egyptian days, when during the time of Imhotep's reign, and there's this really clever scene where Evie is fighting Anaxunamon in like Egypt with these like knives and in sort of like competing over Imhotep's love. Really, it's kind of like adding to the love story. I believe that's what it was doing. Sorry if it's wrong, but yeah, they were competing in a sword fight for Imhotep, basically, I guess you could say. For basically, yeah, that's really it. And we see a rehash of the scene from the prologue of the first movie, where that man dies, who turns out to be Evie's father in that other life, and when Anaxunamon kills herself, so as to be with Imhotep, when he's taken away to be mummified. So there's a lot more depth to this movie. Has kind of more depth in terms of the story, but in terms of depth of characters, I think the first movie does have it slightly over. But for Evie's character, that is a brilliant moment, a very clever concept. I'm glad that they put that in. That was a nice thing for them to do. I thought that added a lot to her character. It showed a lot more courage in her character, because in the first movie she, I mean, as good as she was, sort of turned into a damsel in distress. Not gonna lie, not a bad character, just what they did. Like, it's just like, oh, the typical damsel in distress at the end. But in this movie, she kicks some more ass, which is great. She gets involved in more of the action, and you know, she fights an action one at the end as well. That's sort of like a mimicking of the scene earlier, which is really good. And Rachel Weisz is brilliant as Evie. She's really, really good. For me, better than Maria Bello. I'll talk about Maria Bello in the next review. Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Anyway, so yeah, for Evie's character, that's great. Brendan Fraser returns as Rick, and in my opinion, he's great. I like Brendan Fraser. He's a funny guy. He's not necessarily the most muscular of guys, but I think he's a decent action hero, and you know, his acting is pretty good. Yeah. Excuse me. I like sort of seeing how Rick has to overcome a lot of challenges. You know, he has to sort of obviously put down the mummy again, and you know, he has to sort of keep his son out of trouble, Alex. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but Brendan Fraser plays the part really well. Speaking of Alex played, I can't remember the boy's name, but like as in the actor's name, but the boy that plays Alex, he's good. He's, as far as child actors go, he's all right. Yeah, he's not bad. Bit weird though how in the third movie, Luke Ford, who plays Alex as an adult, suddenly changes his accent for no reason, like changes to an American accent, whereas in this he's got a British accent. But that, I'll address that in the next review as well. But yeah, no, he got involved with the plot. He wasn't just like forced in there. He actually had a lot to do. He's smart. He's intelligent. He's a quick thinker. He's mischievous too, and I liked seeing that as well. Like, he's a bit rebellious. Yeah, John Hannah returns as Jonathan, and I think he's really funny. It's, hands down, best scene in the movie. Jonathan lands in the bath. That was just so funny. I love seeing that when Rick was like, Jonathan, and then Jonathan just appears like in the bath. That's hilarious. The comedy is just great in this as well. Like, and when they come out with the school bus, you know, most of the comedy comes from Jonathan, John Hannah. He's brilliant. The action sequences are pretty spectacular. Do they improve on the first? I guess so. I mean, there's, in the sense that there's more action in this movie than there is in the first movie. There's more action in this film. Like, I like the diversity of the action sequences. I like the diversity in locations of the action sequences. Like, there is an action sequence. There's a bus chase that takes place in London, which is, for me, I think that's really cool. I love that. There's an action sequence in a jungle that's really cool too. There's a humongous battle at the end of the movie with when Oded, I think he's called, him and his sort of order are fighting the army of Anubis, which is really good. I mean, like, visually the battle looks stunning. I mean, you know, the visual effects in this movie are stunning, and they have improved in the first movie. Although I do have to make a gripe. My main issue, I guess, was the CGI Scorpion King. For me, the CGI Scorpion King looked a bit tatty. I know it was 2001, but it wasn't even back then. I probably would have had to say it's not that great in terms of CGI. Well, just that bit. But most of the CGI is fine. The direction by Stephen Sommers is great, and I think he definitely maintains the tone of what he did in the first movie, which was, he maintained just the fun action adventure. I mean, like I said, it's no Indiana Jones, but it's not like a classic that you're going to remember forever. But it definitely has a lot of good moments, and I really like it. I think it complements the first movie really well. You can watch the two of them back to back, and you'll be like, yeah, these are fun adventures. Obviously, watching all three of them back to back is a different story. But The Mummy Returns. The music is amazing. I think the soundtrack is really good. Much better than the soundtrack of the first film. But the first film had a good soundtrack too. And the third movie does have a good soundtrack too as well. I really like the acting. It's really good. Like, cinematography wise, it's great. Like the action sequence in the house as well. The house attack. That's really entertaining as well. Like I said, comedy's really well. It's written well. Like there's some good. It's good fun for the family. Like it's a good family movie. The plot isn't anything that isn't. It kind of all revolves around this bracelet that was basically it makes sense somehow. You don't need me to explain it. Just watch the movie. It's not one of those movies that you should really have to think about too much. You just sit back and relax. But yeah, no, it's a good 2 hours, and I think it's the longest of the three. Yeah, it is. It is the longest of the three, clocking in at 2 hours 4 minutes, which is 124 minutes, which is long enough. It's a good 2 hours. I mean, the first movie is about 1 hour 55, I think, and the third one is 1 hour 50. I can't actually remember how long it is, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, no, The Mummy Returns. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, designs are really good. The makeups and costumes are great. I think I've covered everything really. So, like I said, my only niggles are that it kind of, for me, I don't mind a fast-paced movie, but in this case, I felt a lot of things sort of happened a bit too quickly for me. I mean, it's not. They kind of really, it moves at a yomping pace, and it rockets through a lot of things. And sometimes I missed a few details. I'm like, oh, okay. So what happened there? I think clarity was kind of lacking in a few areas. Like, I was like, hang on, wait, what was that bit again? Like, huh? It's a little bit confusing in a couple of areas, like because it moves really fast. The movie is fastly paced, really fastly paced. More than the first one, because the first one was establishing characters, and then it was slowly getting into the adventure. This goes straight in, and from beginning to end is a non-stop action, film. But it's not a major problem. I just thought some of the scenes are like, okay, so what the hell is going on? Yeah, I mean, a lot of action, and yeah, it's a fun movie. So it's not like a masterpiece or anything, but I'm gonna give it a very good, well-deserved 8 out of 10. It's a really good movie. It's better than the first one. It's better than the first one, and probably better than the third one too. I think a lot of movies are better than The Mummy 3. Yeah, so I'm going to close this off now by saying, tune in next time for my review of The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Oh, that's going to be an interesting rewatch. And then, yeah, I'll continue my review of the Alien films. And then I'm going to be reviewing the first 2 Hunger Games films in preparation for Mockingjay Part 1. So, on that bombshell, I'm going to close this off now. So, thank you all for watching. As always, I'm Mr. Thomas11. See ya.